All right, hello everybody, and welcome to Horizon Overwatch. Tonight we have some wonderful scrims actually going on. So looks like it's going to be Team Surge against Team Executioners. Really curious to see how this goes. I'm a huge fan of Lijiang Tower, and somebody I want you to keep your eye on. So the blue team is actually going to be Surge, and Goose, who is tank main coming in from the blue team. A really incredible tank main. I don't know if you've had a chance to play with Goose, Dancer, but every time I've played with Goose, I'm really impressed by good decision making and a lot of aggression coming in. So have you got a chance to see Goose play too much?
I haven't had the opportunity, I think, to play with Goose as much as I'd like to, but I'll tell you, I do love Marble and Adrian. I've played a ton with those guys. Really excited to see what they're putting out, and if you're saying Goose can make the space, I'm excited to see it.
And certainly, on Lijiang Tower in general, King of the Hill maps more generally, or even more general than that, really what it comes down to is who can control, not only who can control the space on the map, but who can control the tempo of the game. And that's what we're going to be looking for here on King of the Hill. Who's going to have that initial team fight, that first team fight won, because that person's going to be able to dictate what happens during the rest of the game. That first team fight is so huge because not only are you getting your team's ultimates, getting them up, getting them online, but you're also denying the enemy team the ability to get their own ultimates up online. So it's going to be very interesting to see, one, who wins that first team fight, and two, the team that loses that first team fight, what comeback mechanics do they have to get themselves back into the game?
That's so true. And another thing everyone always forgets is the first team to show aggression. Not only do they dictate the pace, they dictate the ult economy, they're also going to dictate the positioning. If you take the time to jump your enemy before they have time to set up and before they have time to get in position, you're just going to have such a stronger ult economy. You're gonna have all those things, and you have such a big advantage in the first fight if you're the first ones on there. If your Winston jumps the backline and forces the peels, forces all that, all the positioning and all the formations that the one team practices, they're going to be stuck, and they're going to have to peel, and they're going to be forced away from what they're used to, and they're going to be forced into positions that may not be beneficial, and that's when your DPS comes in and they clean up the kills.
Yeah, and I think you definitely hit the nail on the head there, specifically with being able to take over that space before the enemy team is able to. Take a look at the team comps that we have coming in right now. We are on a short pause. Very sorry about that, but got a little bit of a computer issue coming in from Adrian. He will be back shortly, but I wanted you to take a look at what we have. So assuming that this is the loadout both teams are prepared to move forward with, there's a key difference, right? So if we're taking a look at Surge on the left side with the blue, they definitely have a lot of mobility, but they also have a Zenyatta. Now, Zenyatta is actually incredibly crucial, specifically if you want to have a lot of aggression, because that Discord is going to be able to take down targets. Giving that extra 30% damage boost to your team is actually insane. But if we take a look on the right side, the Executioners, notice they don't have that Zenyatta. Instead, they have the Moira. Now, it's going to be very interesting. They're losing that damage that they're getting from the Zenyatta Discord Orb, but what they're losing in that, they're gaining in more mobility. So it's much more difficult to dive onto a Moira, take her out of the fight early, than it is a Zenyatta, right? So I'm very curious to see, knowing that maybe they don't know yet, but hopefully once they figure out Executioners, once they figure out they have more mobility, I'm curious to see if that actually impacts the choices and the decisions they're making, or if they're going to be sticking to, this is our plan going into it, this is what we're going to stay with. Let's actually take a look and see what Goose has to say. All right, so Goose going in. Marble's very safe on the back here. He's taking a spot, but unfortunately he's not able to pick up that Mega. I thought he was actually going to be able to outplay the Genji, but misses that Mega by about an inch, and that's all she wrote for Marble. So now Marble is actually in the spawn, only 30% ultimate, and take a look at Z-Care, 70% to Coalescence coming in from the Executioners. Although the team is not winning that fight, Moira can do so much work. Look at the ultimates coming in from the Executioners, from the red side. Almost completely up to Coalescence, and the rest of your team is down in 30s, 40s, 50s. Goose creating a lot of space for his team, having that hacked Mega Pack right there. I don't want anybody to get baited, right? That's good to have in a pinch, but you certainly don't want to set up there. Definitely not with your team being this spread far apart. Now, so Coalescence is going to be coming in from ZCare. Getting the first kill in is Tracer God going down. That's actually a huge deal because Tracer God had EMP, but was not able to actually get any value with it. Goose getting a huge 3K coming in with that Primal Rage. That's actually going to go ahead and clinch it for him. So, like I mentioned before, keep your eye on Goose. Not only is he great at creating that space, but he knows when to go, and he knows when to go, Primal Rage on them, and really gets rewarded in a big, big way by getting a 3K on that fight.
Environmental Winston is a scary thing on this map. There's just so many places to fall off, and it looks like he knows where to boot people.
So 5 ultimates are currently available for Surge right now. They certainly are dictating the tempo of this fight. Now, the question is, when are these ultimates going to be used? Tracer Bomb is coming out. Doesn't get a lot of value with it, but that's okay, because that Tracer Bomb is going to be back very soon. Already to 20% is Finn, 30% with that Tracer Bomb coming back. So when it comes to the Tracer Bomb, that's one of the things, you see that Tracer Bomb go in, you see it land on the floor, it doesn't do anything. Now, you can say that that's a throw, and it kind of is, but the fact that you get it back so quickly, it's basically on a 30-second cooldown. I consider Tracer Bomb to be kind of like a reverse Mercy res, right? You're almost always going to be using that ability on cooldown.
Yeah, a lot of people just consider it to be another ability.
Blade coming in from the Executioners, but unfortunately is not able to get anything. Does get zoned out a little bit there, so pretty good trade there. Getting Marble to use Transcendence, that's always going to be a good trade for Blade. A lot of times you want to go in and poke them, force that Transcendence out first, and then you can actually have the Blade come in afterwards to clean up. But another very good option is to pop your Blade. Know that they're going to pop Trans and just wait it out. And that's exactly what the Executioners did. Love that comeback that they just had there. So now it's 99% for Surge. They do have 2 ultimates that are about to come online. I'm sorry, 1 ultimate, and Tracer God as the Sombra should be getting that EMP relatively soon. Sombra can still pick it up pretty fast. He just needs to actually start doing some damage here. The Executioners do seem to have that Lucio ult. I think they're going to be looking to use it here, but not if Finn has anything to say for it. Misses the first stick to the Lucio, but does get that second stick. 33 down. Surge is actually completely controlling this point right now. GMR doing as much work as he can on that McCree, getting a 2K. I don't know if it's going to be enough. Absolutely incredible map there. So what we really saw was a lot of aggression coming in from Surge. Right, they win that first fight, they establish themselves on point. Huge Primal Rage coming in from the Winston. And then, all the power to Executioners. They were able to take the point back for about 30%, but it was just so hard once that Lucio got stuck. I really like his decision not to drop beat. You're gonna die before you're actually able to even drop beat, so it's wasted. But by the time that the Lucio was dead with that Pulse Bomb coming in, Surge had such an advantage. They walked in, did not even care, and just cleaned up the rest of the fight. GMR tried to do as much work as possible, but he was not able to, confirm that fight for his team. It's very hard to 1v6. Looks like we're sticking with that Sombra, but this time it's actually going to be Finn on the Sombra. Tracer got to switch over to the Junkrat, who already has almost 40% to his ultimate. That's just Junkrat for you. But Junkrat goes down. GMR doing a lot of work, knows everybody's going to be going onto the stairs, takes over the point. Lots of kills coming in, so Zaheev and GMR doing so much work, just so much spam damage. I like the idea of going up on the stairs. That's a really common place to be, especially if you're Surge. But unfortunately, having that McCree free on point and the Junkrat spam coming in, there's really nothing they could do.
Yeah, it seems a little bit weird that you're running, these tanky, deathbally comps. And for some reason, even though one team has a shield and the other doesn't, the Executioner still won that fight. But I think it was the good crossfire the two teams built, where the McCree is on point shooting the side for free, and the Junkrat, as we saw, was doing the best he could.
Zaheev trying to get a huge tire there, but unfortunately for him, Tracer God had him on the radar, was able to get the mind kill, killing both the Junkrat and the tire in the same blow. So this is going to be a very decisive point cap here coming in from Surge, unless GMR can miraculously get 5 more kills here. He's coming in with the high noon, does not get any value out of it. more of a queue to respawn type situation there, so it looks like Surge is going to be taking over the point here. Just a little bit of cleanup duty before they can cap it properly. Now take a look at Adrian here. He's sitting on the Graviton Surge. Obviously, he's not going to throw it away here because the point's already won. But then the question becomes, what are they going to be comboing Adrian's Graviton Surge with? I would love to see Graviton Surge Coalescence. That allows you to do two things. One, you're getting 70 DPS to the enemy team who's stuck in that grav. But two, any of your other teammates, like, let's say for example Tracer got his Junkrat, walking in to do damage, are going to be getting 140 heals per second. So much can come from just that simple combo of Moira and of course Zarya. I'm very curious to see what they do with that Graviton. So it looks like Adrian's getting into position here. He's coming up on the left side. Hopefully nobody sees him. I feel like there's going to be an early Graviton Surge here. Adrian taking his position, waiting for the call from his team on the front lines. Looks like they were actually getting outflanked, so Execution is coming in, getting 4 kills here. It's pretty even though, because Tracer Guy was able to get 2 kills before he actually went down. GMR really needs to carry his team to a point cap here. They've already had a few ultimates being invested, including Transcendence coming in from Executioners, so it's actually vitally important to cap this point. You're investing that much into this fight, you better cap that point. Looks like Goose still trying to maintain as much time on point, preventing that cap. Oh, actually, it looks like the capture did go through. So now we have another fight coming in here, and Goose actually just going wild, getting a 3K, but he does die to the martyrdom. Finn looking very, very comfortable. 17 HP there, is able to make it out. Now he's just laying down as much damage into that monkey as possible. Lucio's going to be going down pretty soon here, too. Not sure if I like that beat. Maybe we missed something. I'm not sure. What do you think about that beat coming in from Rex on Surge's side? Do you feel like that was maybe more of a panic ult, or do you think that maybe he saw something that we didn't see?
I'm thinking maybe he just lost control of the kill feed. You know, he saw it last time they had such a big trickle, and I think the fear just kind of came in that they can't afford to have that kind of trickle again. And sometimes with Lucio, you know, like you just rather keep your team up than risk it. And I think maybe it was either a bad call by someone, or maybe he did just see a little bit of red and freaked out quickly. We know last time Zaheev stayed on the point, he did so much damage. I think he ended up taking 3 of them out on the stagger.
Very interesting swap there. GMR on the Executioner side swapped to Widow just to kill the Junkrat, got 1 kill and then swapped immediately back to Tracer. So really trying to open up the point for his team. Beat does come in for the Executioners. They have 5 on point, all of whom receive the beat. Are they going to be able to do anything with it? Not if that Graviton Surge has anything to say about it. So Adrian was holding on to that Graviton Surge for quite some time there, and it looks like he used it at the perfect time, right as the beat was wearing down, caught everybody else inside of it. They were not able to have any more defensive ultimates because Zcair still does not have his Transcendence. He's very close, but looks like this is going to be going in the way of Surge, especially with those last 3 kills coming in. Overtime is ticking down. That's map number 2 going to Surge.
The only concern I have there, Ark, is we saw Adrian hold on to that grab for a very long time. He'd been waiting to use it for I think the whole game. That might have been his first grab coming out, and he built it fairly quickly, if you remember. I think second fight he had it up, but with all the chaos, he couldn't find an opportunity to use it. I think I'd just like to see maybe the team setting up differently, or trying to build that position faster, because it felt like maybe they could have utilized that all better. I mean, the Reinhardt shattered twice in between the one grab of Adrian there.
Yeah, and you know, we mentioned earlier, what are they going to be comboing the Graviton Surge with? But a better question is, do you always have to combo your Graviton Surge with anything? Right? So for example, if you can get, let's say the enemy team has a Mercy, if you get the Mercy into that Graviton Surge, it's not going to be the best trade for you, but it's certainly a very good trade. You know, confirming that kill on the healers, maybe 1 or 2 others, getting them in there is actually going to enable you to do a lot of work and win that fight. Kills going back and forth right now. Looks like GMR is actually back onto that Widow that we saw him briefly swap onto, doing a lot of work here, getting D.Va out of mech. Does confirm that kill, so it looks like GMR from the Executioners had absolutely enough of this Zenyatta petty pex from getting in too close. He's getting some distance, but unfortunately, very, very great by Surge. They're actually pretty smart there. They adapt immediately, knowing that they have that Widow. Monkey jumps in, does a lot of work, does a lot of damage, and is able to confirm that kill, and a huge kill coming in from Z-Care. As a Zenyatta main, I have got to tell you that watching any DPS get headshot, certainly a Genji or a Tracer get headshot like that, really fills me with a sense of pride and accomplishment. So kills still going back and forth, even after that decisive, kill after kill after kill, coming from GMR on the Widowmaker. It actually looks like they might lose this one. Surge has come back in a big way. Tracer God already has that EMP. Trying to be a little bit more decisive. They feel like they've won this fight, so there's no real need to actually invest any ultimates here. Really what you're looking to do is hope that, the enemy team is feeling desperate and they're willing to waste an ultimate. And it actually looks like they are able to get Primal Rage out of Rin. So that's going to be a pretty big setback. It's going to take quite some time for Rin to be able to pull back that ultimate that was just used to be valuable in the next fight. So I would expect the next couple of fights to be going the way of Surge. A little bit of a half-hearted attack here on point. This is actually what we talked about at the very beginning. This is a big point that your team needs to have the best communication. Sit and wait and spawn, give them 10% for free, give them 15% on point for free, and actually talk about how do we win the next fight. Earlier we talked about comeback mechanisms, right? So when you lose that first fight, you don't have the ult advantage. How do you come back and win against a team who has more ultimates than you? That needs to be the conversation, and certainly half-hearted pushes like that are not going to get the Executioners to where they need to be. Much better grouped up now, so I think we're going to see a much more significant team fight coming in. Goose was looking to drop his shield, keep him safe from that Diva Bomb, but unfortunately it was a little bit slow there, but we actually have kills being traded back and forth, so it's relatively even, slight edge to the Executioners. GMR coming in, getting more headshots on that Widow. I want to see him stay on Widow a lot more, because I don't know if he's just feeling on fire from losing those first two maps, or if he's actually got, the aim to keep down almost the entirety of Surge on his own. But this has been really GMR's show, and the biggest thing for GMR at this point is, can my team follow up on these picks I'm getting?
That was a brilliant read on the Sombra. He saw her, he zoned her with the hip fire, made sure that she couldn't get by invisibly. He's really just closing up lanes here. He's scoping in. They can't walk in anywhere they would like to, and he's zoning off the Sombra as well. It is just really big play by GMR.
I'm surprised nobody's actually going into Peck at GMR, so it looks like almost all of the ultimates are coming in the side of the Executioners. Finally, Finn on the Surge side, the Tracer on Surge, does have his bomb, but is not able to get any value with it. That may well have been a dry push. Now, a lot of times what you want to do, if you know that your enemy team has the ultimate advantage over you, you want to walk in, make it seem like you're going for that aggressive push, but you don't let anybody hit Q. The goal there is to get the defending team to invest ultimates into a fight in which you had no plans to win. So it looks like that might work here. We have Marvel coming in with the Transcendence. Might be using it aggressive here. Or he'll just walk in and kill the Lucio. That's actually huge. So now we've got 3 kills coming in. I do expect to see the Transcendence. Transcendence does come out, is able to save a couple of his teams. There's going to be pretty much a guaranteed team wipe here for Surge. Monkey knows that there's no way he can hold on. Tries to make it back to safety, but unfortunately Rin is not able to get that double jump back to safety. So now at this point it's just Finn trying to clean up. Still has that Tracer Bomb, so now we've got 85% cap for Surge. So it is possible for Executioners to come back and actually go ahead and contest the point, but it's going to be very difficult. They're going to be trickling in maybe 2-3 at a time. I'm very curious to see what Finn is planning to do with this Tracer Pulse Bomb. Looking to get it onto the Zenyatta. Not really too much of a need. Zenyatta did get EMP'd, so he was down to 50 health there. 2 kills coming in from Surge's side. GMR trying to put as much work in as possible, taking down the Lucio. Looks like Finn once again is on cleanup duty here. So this is a very interesting distinction that we're seeing between Surge and the Executioners. So with the Executioners, they have GMR absolutely going insane on that Widow. Getting, pick after pick, headshot after headshot, and hoping that the team kind of fills that void left. Conversely, what we're seeing from Surge is we're seeing, the entire team is doing a lot of work, and then Finn comes in as the tracer and just cleans up those kills. So a little bit of a different approach there. Of course, we get a chance to see the wonderful 3K coming in from Goose, a 3K environmental kill. So congratulations, Goose. Giant play there. Definitely is the tank to watch out for.
I gotta say, Arg, definitely play of the game. I mean, that's insane. Getting environmental kills is huge. But I absolutely love the way Marble, he has ult, he's basically invincible. If Zen has ult, he's unkillable. And so he walks in aggro, and you were mentioning, he just walks in and kills the Lucio. But if we watch that back, he walks in and he starts playing so aggro, he's playing frontline Zen, because he knows as soon as the dive's on him, the team is now out of position on top of his team. He pops Zen ult, and now his team has infinite healing and can clean up the kills. But it's such a low risk, high reward kind of strategy, because what happened is his team walks in, they actually peeled for him properly, and he didn't have to pull the Zen ult till the end of the fight to just make the cleanup very clean. I just love it. It's the same sort of Doomfist mentality. When you know you have Doomfist ult, you feel invincible. You say, worst case scenario, I hit the Q and I'm out of there. And it's felt like he used it to play so aggro. It's just such a cool way to see that ult used.
He considered it like a get out of jail free card, right?
Yeah, he totally just YOLO'd that last fight. He walked in, did not sit where a support should sit, didn't care that he was Zen, he played DPS. I thought that was just such a brilliant play by him. And like I told you, I'm a fan of Marble Zen. I love watching it every single time.
Well, certainly getting that headshot on the Genji, who had jumped off the map to avoid detection, climbing back up in mid-climb, getting that headshot on the Genji. That was actually pretty impressive. It looks like next up we're going to Temple of Anubis, a classic 2CP. I know a lot of people aren't big fans of 2CP. I totally understand why, but we talked about this a little bit on this past Sunday's stream, Dancer. The reason I'm such a huge fan of Temple of Anubis is it really shines a light on what team feels more confident in their teamwork, right? Because you're not going to win fights by having, incremental advantage over time. Maybe a pick here, a pick there, you stand and choke, you wait. None of that's happening. If you're on attack here, you need to win the fight, and you need to win the fight right now. So that's what we're looking to see here as far as attack on Anubis is concerned. And then, of course, once you cap point A, what do you do with point B, knowing that it's so defender favored, right? The defenders have huge respawn advantage on point B, so it's going to be very difficult, not only to just cap, making sure your team is all together, but then taking that same aggression, taking that same, advantage that you have built up over that giant team fight and applying it to point B. All right, so as we take a nice scenic view of the Temple of Anubis here, let's take a look at what both teams are kind of thinking about here. Seeing Goose on that Winston, I'd actually be fine with that. Goose has got, obviously as we saw, an incredible Winston, but biggest thing that we're looking for on a place like Anubis, which has, there's a lot of different levels here. We're looking at the archway right now. If you go a little bit farther into the point, you've got high ground top left, but you've also got high ground top right. Sombra is a fairly active pick here. Some people like the Sombra, certainly with her new buffs. She's much more of an assassin, so you can get into the enemy team's backlines. I do expect Finn to stay on that Sombra now that the doors are open. So now we're getting a chance to see, what is defensively minded, what is Surge thinking on this point?
Typically, if you see the Sombra on defense here, you're going to hack your top Mega. Your tanks are going to rotate onto point, taking the damage. And with old Sombra, that would be building her ult, and she could sort of just play safely, wait for the safe pick on the back line. I'm interested to see how aggro Finn's going to have to play here, because that tank healing that you're doing now does nothing for your team in terms of ult economy.
Yeah, and if anything, it's actually building up, you know, if your tanks are taking a lot of damage, it's building up a lot of the DPS ultimates coming in from the opposite side. So, you know, these are going to be fights that are going to have to be won very decisively. Finn wasting absolutely no time, walking immediately into the Junkrat, does not even need the hack, gets the kill off, saving the hack for the Reinhardt. That's a very, very smart hack because that Reinhardt cannot use his shift to get out of dodge. He can also not actually shield his team. So Reinhardt is certainly one of the best targets to actually get your hack, because at that point, as long as you stay about 5 meters away from him, he's actually useless.
Just a really crazy smart play. Like you said, he held the hack, which means you hack a Reinhardt, he's useless. They turned a 5v6 into a 4v6 just by turning invisible and waiting for the team to walk into the trap. Really smart heads-up play by Finn.
Now let's take a look. So it looks like on the Executioner side, they have switched over to a Far Mercy comp. Very interesting here. It looks like they're just trying to get some spam damage so they don't have to walk into the enemy team being full health and having the advantage. Very curious to see, though, with that swap, they're even lower down on the ult economy ladder. So Surge has already got their Genji Blade here. Looks like they're going to be getting Primal soon. Adrian's going to have his bomb soon. So actually pretty much everything is coming up for Surge. The question now becomes, how do they actually rotate their ultimate so they're not blowing everything all in one fight? Looks like they're being very smart here. Diva Bomb was invested. Of course, hunting down that Mercy as Tracer God does confirm the kill. All right, so now we're at a point where the Executioners are able to catch up a little bit. They have 3 ultimates online. Mercy will be getting her ultimate within about the next 15 to 20 seconds, so it's actually 4 ultimates online, but of course 5 ultimates online coming in from Surge, including that EMP, which can essentially shut down any push, provided that the rest of your team follows up, and that's what we've been seeing from Surge. They do follow up on these EMPs. All right, so big 2K coming in here. Looks like Surge is actually at their first disadvantage of the map. Finn is not able to make it out okay, but Adrian is coming in, getting 2K of his own, still at a huge disadvantage, especially knowing that the attackers have that respawn advantage. Adrian getting pinned, maybe not going to be able to make it out from this one. Yeah, and as you can see, that's what I love about that Reinhardt. Look at how he just walks in. So he knows he can trust his team. He was watching the kill feed. He knows the point is safe. So why waste time on point when you can walk forward and bully the enemy team off of, you know, some easy high ground? You can also bully them by getting a kill on the way in. You know, a lot of enemy teams don't expect that aggression. So looks like what we're going to see here is an instant push coming in from the Executioners. Let's see if they can actually follow up on it here. Probably going to be an aggressive beat drop. Yeah, there goes the beat right here. Not the best idea, though, when the enemy team has a Tracer who you're pretty sure has his Genji Blade. Genji Blade comes out looking to get some value from it, does find the Baby Diva, get the dash reset, but cannot get the kill on the Lucio, who does move him away. Not really a big deal because Surge definitely won the point there. So, taking a look at Poppy's perspective, right, he's the Lucio on the Executioner. So I appreciate where he's coming from there. You want to drop beat, you want to enable your team those extra couple of seconds to be able to confirm a few kills. Problem, of course, is, you know, that beat, it doesn't have to be shot off. It's actually going to drop off over time. After about 5 seconds, it goes away. So Genji's able to just sit back, wait as long as he likes, and then get the kill as soon as the beat, you know, wears itself out. Giant EMP coming in from Finn. Let's see if we can get any value coming in at the end of this EMP. Huge charge coming in from Rin. That actually might be a point cap here. I don't want to call it too early because this is 2 CP, but a decisive kill like that, maybe the Winston will be able to get in time. No, not going to be able to get in time. So really, really strong play there on the back of the Diva Bomb, which was able to, you know, get a lot of Surge off of the point. They had to go for cover. And when you drop that Diva Bomb, that's actually one of the biggest zoning ults that you have access to, because unless you're a Roadhog using Take a Breather, nobody is going to be able to survive that bomb. So when you pop that bomb on point, even if you're not getting any kills with it, what you're enabling your team to do is, you know, take that vacuum of space that was created by the Diva Bomb, establish themselves on point, and now all of a sudden you have the attacking team with advantage on point, and the defending team now has to fight their way back onto it just to contest. So really, really smart Diva Bomb there.
and they definitely took advantage of the fact that every ult was used in the previous fight. So they go to engage, they use all their ults very, very aggressively, but in that, they take out all the defensive ults. Basically, it's a clean 0-0, no ult fight, which is all right. You know, you go in, you know it's going to be dry, you try and build whatever you can, and they end up getting some picks, and it works out from there. So I love that. You know, don't take that time to try and build ults. It's 2 CP. You want to get on the point. You want to be building ults, and I mean, they're just playing so aggressively. I like it. I like it a lot.
Absolutely. I really, really like the confidence that the Executioners were showing, which they did lose a little bit of in the last map on Lijiang Tower, but it looks like they're feeling very confident now. 3 minutes and 45 seconds left in the time bank. That's actually huge, right? That's a great deal of time left over. And now taking a look at the defense here, so it looks like very similar. One thing I have to say that I do kind of want to riot about is GMR did not play Widow even once on Temple of Anubis.
That is strange. I didn't give any thought to that, but I mean, if you're seeing it on Lijiang, you should be seeing it here. I mean, I'd expect to see the .1 Widow on defense and offense if he's that confident with the choice, but...
Yeah, certainly on attack because there's so many sight lines you can get. And Finn actually had that idea who did pick the Widow on attack. So let's see if Finn can make any space for the team here by getting that first pick. So a very, very confident open here. Surge is taking absolutely no time to let any of the enemy team charge any of their ultimates, gain any sort of confidence on the point, because the entire Executioner squad is going down here. Immediate cap going in for point A. So now it looks like we have Tracer God as the Fair doing a lot of work, 60% to ultimate within, what was that, 40 seconds of the fight? And this is what you want to see as far as attack on Temple Anubis is concerned. You have Tracer Guy getting pocketed by that Mercy. Already has Barrage up, if I might add, and a 3K coming in, so I really don't know how it's going to be possible for the Executioners to come back at all in this fight. And that's one of the things that we've been seeing a lot from Tracer God. Really, really smart decision making, right? So a lot of people would have popped that barrage much earlier to be able to confirm that first fight, but Tracer God knew we didn't need it. So actually using it there, now that's another one where it didn't get a lot of value off of it, but notice how many people dove onto Tracer God while rezzing. Meanwhile, the rest of the team was killing everybody else. So Surge is still very confident they get 2 ticks on the point here. Poor Tracer God is getting hacked basically on cooldown. Rin getting a gigantic pick on the Mercy. That actually might be enough to turn this fight. I don't want to call it too soon, but Mercy going down there is a huge, huge blow to the Surge attack here. Beat being dropped by Marble. What a timely beat. So we still got kills going back and forth. Coalescence coming in from the Executioners, trying to just maintain some sort of control on the point here. And it looks like the kills are starting to go into the Executioners' favor. So Rin is putting the entire team on his back, getting a 3K so far in that portion of the team fight. GMR coming out on the Tracer, just trying to capitalize, trying to clean up on those last kills, because the last thing you want is somebody to continue holding point while the rest of the team is able to make it back, bring those reinforcements. So looks like finally the Executioners are able to get some breathing room. I really did not expect that. I thought we were going to be seeing pretty much a full team wipe into a cap on point B. What do you think was a decisive moment there for the Executioners?
I'm just as surprised as you are, Arg. That was really weird to see. I thought it was clear as crystal who was going to win there. But I think the big deal is when the tanks started surviving. I mean, the tanks came, they started to build space, and for the first time, when the DPS was res, they actually didn't just get immediately focused. As soon as you have 2 tanks, you get split target calling, and then it all just goes downhill from there. They made space for the 1 DPS, and then 2 after the spawn, and it was game over, I think, after that.
So another aggressive fight coming in from Surge. Goose is doing a lot of work here again. So what I really like about what Goose does is, using that Tesla cannon, getting damage in, but of course, adding in melees every so often. Now, very interesting thing about that, when you're adding in those melees, you're actually not technically doing more damage, but you are doing more burst damage because melee is doing 30 damage. So that's why you're going to see when Goose is using that Tesla cannon, that melee is coming in, you know, basically on cooldown for melee, because at the end of the day, you're going to be able to burst a target down faster. Of course, not needed on that Sombra there, who's so low already. Unsung Heroes Marble with these giant beats. Being able to keep your team alive for that long is so important in these team fights. But unfortunately, GMR is actually switching onto the Reaper, is able to get a lot of damage in. Now we have a Roadhog coming in from Sagu, who's able to also help stop the point. So the bleeding is stopped here. Damage was done. 2 ticks. Just like they had from first fight, though, so not a lot of advancement there. What Surge needs to do here is actually figure out how do we decisively win this next fight? Because all we really need is that 1 tick. Even if we can just bully them off the point, that's probably what Surge is looking to do here. Tracer got coming in, trying to get a huge barrage here. Can't find anybody. Tracer guy getting 2 kills there. Actually gets res, so this is completely going in Surge's favor. I think that actually might be the 6th kill there, and that's where we're going to see the cap. So as aggressive and as competent as Surge was on that attack, notice they actually have less time left in the time bank.
Yeah, I thought that was going to start off as a steamroll, but I think that it was almost a 2-minute fight that we thought Surge was going to win, and the Executioners ended up turning around. Just absolute massive play there. The one thing I'm really surprised about is it felt like Surge's Mercy got a lot of reses. It still takes 2.5 seconds, which can be distributed, distracted by any CC, even if it's just a push away from the res, or damage onto the Mercy. You just kill her, just frag her while she's sitting still for that 2 seconds. I don't know. What do you think about that arc? Because it just felt like we saw res after res. A few of them made sense, you know, after a barrage, half the team's dead, it's going to be a free res. But even when Surge started losing the fight, the first fight that they had on the attack there, they got a res wide open. We saw through Widow's scope, the entire team was brawling on point, and they just let Mercy pop into a bubble, res, and then get back in the air with Pharah. I mean, a res on Pharah is the biggest res you can have there. You're flying around, you get so much more mobility if the Pharah's in the sky. Picking her first really leaves Mercy hanging around on the ground, especially there's a lot more closed sight lines on Anubis, so if you don't have that Pharah, you lose almost your entire shift ability. That's just how I feel. I'm very surprised that they didn't, you know, prevent the Pharah res a little bit harder.
Well, there's 2 types of Mercies who are going to do that res in that moment, right? The 200 IQ Mercies and the feeders, right? Now, here's what separates those 2 groups of people, because there is a pretty big separation. If you're coming in, if you're feeling very confident that not only you're not just watching the kill feed, right? If you're walking in as Mercy and you're paying very close attention to which of your teammates are getting the most focus, you can actually, I don't want to say cut your res time in half, but essentially what you're doing is, you know, by popping that res, you know nobody's looking at you in that moment, so you're getting about a free half a second, maybe a free full second before anybody's able to actually look over to you. Pair that with you calling to your tanks, hey, listen, I'm rezzing, save me, save me, save me. By the time the enemy team is actually able to see you, point their guns and shoot, your tanks are there. Now, what does that mean for the feeding Mercies? Well, those are the ones who don't pay attention to those things, walk into the middle, attempt to res and die instantly.
So it looks like we were gonna have Ark come in, which is the coach of Surge, come in here for an interview. We're having a few problems, so we'll see if we can fix that up for the next match. We can just get in here and get into the next map and maybe have an interview with him next time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ark, for making yourself available for that. We'll get those technical issues fixed up for you as soon as possible. Looks like Adrian is having a little bit of a call of nature, so we might need a minute there. I want to go back to what we saw from GMR there. So GMR, of course, is on the Executioners. We saw him do a lot of work on Lijiang Tower as the Widowmaker. Didn't see a lot of Widow play there, but we are getting a chance to see a very diverse hero pool coming in from GMR. Feeling very confident on the Tracer. We saw some McCree play. We even saw some Reaper at the end there.
Yeah, I love the swap to Roadhog. I mean, they had some pretty good swaps there. I mean, when you switch to Roadhog, you're really giving your Diva and your Winston a lot of trouble. So, like we said, Goose likes to jump in there. He likes to be very, very aggressive. And if Diva, just has a little bit of issues, if anyone sort of sees her, blocks the DM, basically your Winston can be half health before he even starts getting his shift back to get out.
So it looks like Numbani is going to be our next map here. Um, Numbani is very interesting. Especially when if you're the attackers, or I'm sorry, if you're the defenders of point A, right? So this is going to be an assault escort style map, right? So the attacking team needs to actually take over a point on the map. Of course, the payload is going to be coming out, and then they need to bring that payload to the end of the map. So it's half assault, half escort. When you're the defending team here, there's actually a lot of high ground to play with, but here's the interesting thing. A lot of attacking teams don't really care about your positioning there. People have started running a lot of death ball, so what they're trying to do is blitz immediately onto point, put a big Reinhardt shield and maybe a Winston bubble in front of you, uh, and then just really invite you to come down. Because if you're defending on high ground, that's great. But if you're actually not able to shoot anybody because those shields are in your way, or the Diva's right-clicking your shots, the attacking team's getting so much free capture progress that eventually you have to drop, and then in comes your Reaper to just clean everybody up who's foolish enough to drop on point. So there is a lot of high ground work, but there is a lot of counterplay if you can bait the enemy team off the high ground. So Numbani's it's very fluid in that way where it's not nearly as stale as maybe we've seen in seasons past. This is actually a very exciting time in the game where so many things can be done, but the problem is you have to execute very, very specific game plans in order to make that work. So really curious to see what happens with Numbani here, especially with the executioners. So they're going to be relying on a lot of DPS to be popping off, or they're going to be going for more of like those full team fights where they can really rely on each other to focus down the same target.
Yeah, and more on that high ground. Numbani's always been a battle for high ground, and it's really funny to see, like, through the metas, through dive, through all that. One thing that's never changed is having, a healer and a soldier in that one opposite corner where you have the tunnel. I feel like we see that no matter what meta is there. In tank meta, soldier was the only DPS. In dive, you even run the soldier with the dive and then swap off on point 2 and 3. So, uh, I mean, to capture point 1, you need to answer the question: who's contesting high ground? Um, and I'm interested to see how they utilize it. I've seen the Bastion before. I've seen the McCree, the Soldier. You even see the occasional Widow, although I don't really personally like the sight lines. But there's a few different ways to do it. So I know, GMR has that nice Widow. Let's see if they try and put him on attack up on the pedestal on top left, or if you try and put him on Kara on defense. There's a few sight lines that you can try and make work. And I really want to see creative things from both these teams.
Yeah, that'll be the interesting thing to watch here. It looks like Adrian is able to make it back, so we will be getting started shortly here. Now, one of the interesting things here is, so we mentioned before, this is an assault escort style map, right? So much of it is going to be, how do we win that first fight? But then the moment that you win that first fight as the attacking team, how do you transition into, the long, prolonged fights that are coming up ahead of you? certainly once you get to the final section of the map, there's a very difficult turn that if you do get stopped as the attacking team, it's actually one of the most difficult corners in the entire game to retake as the attacking team. It's very defensively stacked, not only with the respawn advantage, but of course with a lot of high ground easily accessible to the defending team, a lot of a lot of walls to hide behind. So you know, once the attack is won, once you're pushing that cart, um, I think the big thought that should be running through their head is, what are we saving as attack? What are we saving to be able to ensure we get that final push to get all the way to the end zone in one go? The moment you get stopped on attack, it is so difficult to regain that inertia.
For sure, there, Arg. I 100% agree with you. And often on these payload maps, you even see sometimes the defense will even just set up a little bit further back because they know the further back they wait to jump on, the better respawn timer you'll have. Now, you don't always want to do this because you are letting up a little bit of cart, but think point two of Numbani here. That attacker respawn is rough for the end of point two. Until you get that new respawn, you're adding probably 10 or 15 seconds to your walk. And so if you don't have momentum, if you don't break through the defenses the first time, you're looking at another 1 or 2 fights minimum. Not very often will you see the next fight come back as a win, because as soon as the defense stabilizes, it's rough going again.
Definitely, and I want to actually give a quick piece of advice that I've learned a little bit more recently. Take a look at this spot that we're showing you right here. So obviously we have the cart below. You can see that there's high ground on both farther away left side and on the right side. Here's a quick piece of advice. The high ground that's on our immediate right side, closest to the camera here, don't hold there. That would be my piece of advice. If we take a look over on the left side here, this is a much better spot, and this is where you'll usually see your Zenyatta. This is where you'll see your Ana, that soldier you were talking about before. This is traditionally where you see better teams hold. Take a look at where that Winston's at, right? Not only does he have that wall there as a good barrier, he's got the potential to drop down behind. He's got the hallway to escape to on the left. There's a lot of options when you're on the back high ground. But if you take a look back to the other high ground, the biggest problem there is you only really have 2 directions, right? Enemies are coming in one way. You either need to walk into them or walk backwards, and that's not really how you want to limit your options. You can drop, but unfortunately there you're really just dropping into the enemy team. So looks like on defense we've got Rin coming in with that monkey. Of course we've got Zenyatta, Ana. Don't see a soldier here. Zahiv is actually taking over the McCree role here. Traditionally we see soldier because the healing pad is so incredibly good, certainly if you're holding the high ground with the rest of your team. And just like I mentioned before, this is what you'll see a lot of teams do. They'll walk immediately onto the point, baiting the enemy team to come down into them. And unfortunately, if you bait Zahiv down into your team, he will kill your Mercy instantly unless you have an answer for him. So 30 seconds in is our first team wipe. We can just pretend like that one didn't happen. Unfortunately, though, for Surge, now they're looking down the barrel of a gun because the enemy team, the defending team here, the Executioners, they've got a lot of build-up on their ultimates. Pretty much everybody is in the 40 to 50% range, where if you take a look back over to Surge, even with the switch to the Reinhardt, of course, they're down, maxing out at 30% for that Diva ultimate, so really at a huge disadvantage here. But not if Goose gets that first kill. We've got kills being traded back and forth. Zahiv doing as much work as possible, is able to get that headshot on the Genji. That was actually pretty incredible there, but not able to stay alive long enough to support the rest of his team. Looks like Poppy might be going down because he is the Ana. Yeah, he gets focused down. I'm surprised that didn't happen a little bit sooner, but great focus coming in from Surge. They are able to cap that point. And so now we're back to more of a fair fight. The ultimates are a little bit laid out better. Unfortunately for Vin, though, trying to push that Junkrat might not have been the smartest thing, going down very quickly. Also getting the Diva mech on the way out. That's actually huge here, Dancer.
Yeah, I mean, if you get Tracer, she spawns back. It's not a big deal at all. If you get Diva mech, now she's sitting there spamming, or she has to choose the option to suicide, which you saw her run into the enemy team's bullets there. But that buys a lot more than a 10-second spawn timer. Demeching a D.Va is massive. It's better than any other stagger.
Now this is what you're going to want to watch out for. So he knows the D.Va's back. GMR is going to pop the tire, trying to get in, get a kill before he can actually get it shot down. Is able to do a significant amount of damage to the D.Va mech, but does not take it out. Kill feed is heavily favoring the Executioners here, so it looks like they found themselves in a little bit of a rhythm here. Now we're starting to see their ultimates cycling through instead of all being blown at once. We do have Zaheev likely looking to use that Deadeye very quickly here, maybe as a zoning ult, but I think he's taking the high ground because he actually wants to get some value out of this. Of course, Hot Sauce coming up with the Zenyatta Transcendence. That'll be up soon. It's actually online right now. Zaheev desperately needs some healing, and Transcendence actually popped to keep the rest of the team up as Surge walks in. Ultimates are being traded back and forth here, so is able to get a kill on Hot Sauce after he comes out of the Transcendence with the D.Va Bomb, getting a 2K if you include the suit of the D.Va Bomb. So now it's actually looking like Surge has a huge advantage here. Finn actually, as the Tracer, getting a kill up on the Baby D.Va, who was high ground. Pretty impressive considering the spread that Tracer has on those pistols.
But see, this is where the danger comes in. If they can touch before this cart gets the second lock, you have those horrible defensive spawns we talked about. And we might even try and see a zoning ult here by the McCree. Really could push them off it and mess them up.
But the D.Va is having none of that, able to bop the McCree, boop the McCree, I'm sorry, off the high ground. So this is what the attacking side wants to see. This is what Surge wants to see. Huge advantage going into this corner. This is the corner that I mentioned earlier. Is very, very difficult to actually re-push once you've lost. So the Monkey goes down, Goose is going down on Surge's side. That's actually a huge deal because they need to maintain pressure here. It's actually the second kill so far this team fight, so this is actually not looking very good for Surge, although they did have a very, very convincing fight all the way up until this point. Looks like they're actually going to be pushed back, and this is the nightmare scenario if you're Surge. How do we retake this point? You know, you can go high ground, try to get behind, maybe pick off their healers. That is one way to do it, but you never know who's actually going to be holding high ground. Certainly if GMR is on defense as that Junkrat, you really don't want to be walking into a room knowing the enemy team has a Junkrat. So the question is, 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. How does Surge win this fight? And it looks like they decided to just beat Blade, throw Primal, and just literally hit W until you hit the defender's spawn. That is something that I absolutely love to see. Not enough teams do it. That W key will actually win you more games than anything else. And that's going to be time. So I am blown away by the attack there. So traditionally, like we mentioned, that's a very hard corner to push, but Surge did not care about any of that. They decided to invest a lot of ultimates there. Now, lucky for them, there were no defensive ultimates coming in from the Executioners, which actually may have been planned. But man, when you invest that many ultimates in, you better walk in and win that game. You know, so many times you'll be on teams, especially if you're, you know, in competitive, maybe you're in solo queue, and you get that big fatty beat, you want the team to walk in, and then Reinhardt just holds his shield up, and you lose the fight. That's not happening from Surge. They have a very good grasp on what aggression can do and how it can change the tempo of the game. And as we saw right there, just that pure aggression of just never stopping your trek forward instantly won them that fight. And there was actually no chance for the Executioners to get back in and even stall point, let alone stop it.
Yeah, we saw a lot of smart plays. Unfortunately, I think just things didn't go well for the Executioners. I saw their intent behind a lot of their decision making, and it's either the timing was off by one or two characters, or you know, just like one thing kind of just got messed. It's just really unfortunate. Like we said, we wanted to see that .2 hold. McCree got the flank. He got down. Unfortunately, the tanks were zoned off the payload, and so McCree couldn't buy that stall. You know, he can't drop on the payload with his Deadeye. He'll die too quick. He gets the flank position. It was set up very well. It's just unfortunate that the tanks were blown up so fast or they couldn't touch. something happened there. We are seeing some coordination, just a little bit lacking in the execution side, which I might say is ironic with the executioners.
It's in the title of their name. You would think that they would keep that in mind. Now we do have Finn actually. Remember there was the McCree coming in from the defense when it was the executioners. Finn is actually on that soldier, but instantly gets destroyed. I do not like that Finn was up there alone and the rest of his team was on the other high ground. That's why I mentioned I don't like that high ground. One, I don't want people to split, but two, if you're gonna split, you don't want to leave one of your lead DPS alone by himself on the other side. Really heads up play by the executioners there, knowing how vulnerable that soldier was, getting that kill, and they're getting an instant cap on the point. Very little threat coming in from Surge on the defensive there.
Yeah, we're looking at a pretty fast payload building here. It looks like alt economy's heavily in Executioner's favor now. Surge might be in a little bit of trouble here. They're going to have trouble stabilizing in all of point 2. Their goal right now should be to try and get some of these alts that are about to come online for Executioners and get them early in an early fight. That's why you see them rushing back with their 10 tanks. If they take an early fight here, they might be able to reset after alts are used and get that second fight. But the closer this payload gets, the more they're going to be in trouble.
Well, not if GMR has anything to say to it. So I think GMR might have been, hearing our pleas and is doing a lot of work on that Widow, establishing dominance on Finn, who's the defending Widow and got headshot very quickly after the swap. So let's see who is actually picking up the first kill here. Goose looks like he might be going down here. Rin does get the first kill onto Tracer God, who's on the Genji for Surge's side, but kills are actually getting traded back and forth. Marble, who is the support carry from Surge, getting a kill on the enemy Widow. And this is a little bit scary for Finn. You have a very angry monkey walking directly at you, but you're not able to get away. You can grapple, but he's going to find you. He's got his jump on a very short cooldown. I think it's about 2 seconds. So Rin is able to establish a lot of space creation here. Just doing so much damage, even if you're not confirming those final 2 kills on the Lucio, on the Genji. What you're doing is you're making it so that they can't possibly contest. And just stopping them from contesting, you don't see it in the kill feed, but that actually might have saved the point, because if they're able to contest for long enough and their team is able to actually rally around them, they can win that fight and stop the point from capping. Really love what I'm seeing here. So even though the point was just capped, this is what Surge does the best. They know that the enemy team is going to be on their heels. They just cap point. They might be, talking in comms, hey, here's what we're going to do, or they might be waiting for somebody to get into position. And that's when Surge does the best. When they have the enemy team on their heels and they initiate that fight. They were losing handily up until this point, but just walking in on the enemy team when they weren't expecting it completely stalled out the attack from the Executioners.
Yeah, and we saw the advantage of being able to see people through walls without Widow wall. The tanks took big advantage of that. You saw Goose immediately. He saw Widow was out of position. They had one person in spawn. He immediately jumps on the other 3, and they know they can take that 3v6 really easily. And they made a Widow ult into a very good aggressive play. Typically, you don't see that used other than just for easy winning of the Widow duels or for quick picks on the supports from spawn.
Looks like we actually have kills coming in from both sides here, and now a lot of kills are coming in with Zahid using that Dragon Blade, getting several kills, at least 3K on that last fight. So as soon as that fight began, it was ended by Genji and his Blade. So now it looks like we might have a little bit of a chance. There might be some life left in Surge if they're able to get out here. Maybe Goose can pop his Primal Rage, touch the payload. Tracer God's trying to come in and get his a blade of his own, is not able to find any value because Beat has been dropped from the Executioner, so 0 kills coming in off that Dragon Blade. Marble doing as much as possible on that Zenyatta to just try to keep this fight alive. Goose is able to get the first kill. Now we've got Mei on the point getting a kill of her own, and it looks like this is going to be another stop here for Surge. That's one of the great things about Mei is Obviously May can do a lot of work. Being able to freeze your target, especially with the new May buffs that have come through, much easier to freeze your target. Being able to freeze your target, yes, that's important. But what May brings to moments like that is not only her Ice Wall, which of course can trap somebody, but can also keep the enemy healers from line of sighting their team. But then the ice block that May has allows you to just stall out point for such an annoying amount of time that your team is able to come in and support you. And it looks like a lot more aggression coming in, so this is really what I was hoping to see. This is how we saw Surge win the last fight, and it looks like the Executioners have taken a lot out of Surge's handbook here. They're coming in full aggression, another Blade with 2 more kills coming in from Zahid. Beg my pardon, make that 3 kills if we're including the Diva Mech here. He is getting chased back by the Winston, but unfortunately getting him chased back is not going to stop the point. The Executioners are able to cap there, so really, really strong performance. A little bit slower by the Executioners. They had that initial cap coming in very fast, but much slower on the end there. Slight difference in time bank. I'm actually willing to call that about as close to a tie as you're going to find. Really, really strong performance on both sides.
It looked like both defenses only stalled for about maybe 1 or 2 fights. I'm wondering, Arg, if you saw anything that maybe the defenses could have done a little bit better. Because I think both teams showed massive aggression. They won every single fight they could have on attack, but the defense felt really, really weak. Other than that first defense we saw by the Executioners.
Well, here's what I saw, and here's at least what I was kind of thinking, because that's a really good point. The defenses did get stepped on, but really what it comes down to is if you're the attacking team, and I know I already said it, but it really bears repeating. If you don't stop hitting W until you hit the enemy team, until you hit their supports, until you hit the back wall of the map, it's very difficult as defense to even have the reaction time, because here's what needs to happen. When you're attacking and you want to create that moment, you've already thought about it beforehand. So when you're going, it's time to go. When you're on defense on the receiving end of that and you're trying to respond to what's being brought to you, first you have to make a calculation of, what's my biggest threat? Second, what do I do about it? And third, where do I go? By the time you've actually figured out all those questions, even if it's only about a half second or a second that it takes you, that's the second in which the attacking team has a massive advantage of you standing still. So I don't know if it was so much the defense really dropped their spaghetti, or if it was more that the offense was just so aggressive. It was just very difficult to actually, adapt to that situation.
And hopefully we fixed all our technical issues here. I'm going to try and bring in Ark, who is the coach for Surge, and we'll see how this goes.
Hello?
Hey, Ark. hey, Ark. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great, buddy. How are you enjoying the scrim so far?
We look like we're doing pretty good. Last map, defense, a bit shaky.
So what
But
would you do? We were asking Arg, what would you do about that defense, or what advice do you have your team after that's a little bit rough?
well, a bit question about the Widowmaker pick. Of course, the point of that pick was to counter the Widowmaker, but that did prevent them to get a little bit more steamrolled because you gotta get rid of that DPS what they have, along with him not getting that consistent picks, which kind of would question why would you not want like a McCree, Soldier, Tracer over a Widowmaker. Um,
Yeah, and actually, I really want to ask you a question also about the defense that we saw there. So when Surge was put on defense, they had a soldier holding solo high ground left, and the rest of the team, including the tanks, were high ground right. Now, is that something that has been specifically worked on? Is there maybe a crossfire aspect I was missing, or do you think that was more of a miscommunication about where to hold?
with last points,
Oh no! On the very first point of Nubani defense, you had I believe it was Finn as the Soldier 76 holding point A alone on his on the top left high ground while the rest of the team was top right. So is that something you've worked on in the past where you're trying to bait them into diving the Soldier high
Yes, yes,
ground?
yes. That's our attempt there is try to get them, to come over there and then counter dive and get rid of the Winston or Diva and just to get that quick advantage. Um, didn't work as consistently as we're hoping on. We're still working on our counter dive. I think that's one of our weakest aspects because it requires a lot of practice to burn the Diva and burn the tanks as fast as we can.
All right, and let me ask you one final question because I know everybody's chomping at the bits to get back into scrims here. For this next map for Route 66, I'm not going to ask you what they're going to run. I don't want that insider information. But what I do want to know is who do you think would be a good person to keep our eyes on from Surge?
I think you gotta look at Tracer God here because I think he has a very strong hero picks and it's a very strong map for Sombra. We saw Sombra I bet in the beginning, and he was getting a lot of picks, getting good EMPs. Not sure if he's gonna run Sombra on this point on attack and defense, but definitely a strong map for him, and you might be able to see some good picks here with him.
All right, well, thank you so much, Ark. Of course, that was Ark, team captain and coach of Surge. We appreciate your time. Let's get back into scrims here. So we're going to be seeing hopefully some work out of Tracer God Dancer. What do you think?
I'm excited to see it. If Ark suggested it, then I'm sure it's going to be great. We did see some pretty big EMPs at the beginning. I want to see more of those. I absolutely love a big EMP. And after the latest changes, you just feel so useless. I know, Arg, me and you both love the Lucio. You get those Lucio changes with the EMP, and you just feel so helpless. You used to be the guy that could actually help your team. You can switch to speed or switch to healing quickly before that comes out. And if you hit your shift, the only ability you really lost was your boop. But with those new changes, it's just a really big problem to every single character. Everything's just really strong. The EMP is so strong against absolutely everything. So
One of the funniest things about Tracer is the common wisdom used to be don't hack the Lucio, and the reason behind that was Lucio would still maintain his wall ride, he would still maintain the song that he was on. He just couldn't switch between songs or boop, just like you were mentioning a moment ago. And now it's to the point where if you're playing Sombra in this new patch, hack the Lucio. His song goes off completely. He has no way to escape, and killing that support is so crucial. You're not going to get much if you hack a Zenyatta. He can't throw out orbs, but it's not going to do that much. But hacking the Lucio is actually insane. That is certainly, just like you mentioned, one of the biggest changes with Sombra this patch.
yeah, I mean, it kills me to see it because you used to see that big counterplay with the Lucio Sombra where a good Lucio could always predict Sombra's movements, and he could use his ult. He could LOS her ult, pop in, hit a big beat afterwards, and make her EMP useless. Or he used to be able to, like I said, you used to be able to switch to the healing and amp right before the hack actually came off, and there would be like almost no difference.
I'm very curious to see what they run here. Hopefully we're getting started soon. Route 66 is actually I don't want to say my favorite map. It's very difficult to pick favorite map, but it's certainly one of my favorite maps.
It feels like the most even payload. You have that Route 66 is everyone's favorite payload map, and I think King's Row is everyone's favorite hybrid map. I think everybody hates 2CP, so there's no point in saying that. But yeah, I gotta say Route 66. It feels like my favorite. It's just so even. All the phases are different, where you get that more close quarters phase in the third one. You have this really open. You have to contest the high ground in the first phase. It just feels like there's a little bit of everything for just about everyone.
All right, so let's take a look at what we're seeing here. So, as of course you walk out, this is going to be just a pure escort map, right? You don't have, similar to what we saw in Nubani, where you are pushing a payload, but it doesn't require you to take over a point to be able to gain access to that payload. So, the goal here is to see, obviously who can push it the farthest, right? Of course, you want to get it to the end. The hope is you get it to the end, and if you do, how much time is left in the time bank? So. Notice one of the things you might be seeing if you're watching this right now. Maybe you haven't done scrims before, you're used to competitive play. What you might be noticing is that we don't actually play each map to completion. The reason behind that is, scrims are all about practicing and getting better. Obviously, winning is lovely, but it's really about seeing as many different interactions, as many different maps, as many different play styles as you can. So a lot of teams don't really like to waste that extra time bank left over playing the same map again. So if there is any time left on the time bank, just like we saw with Numbani, just like we saw with Anubis, they're just going to go ahead and cancel it after each team has a chance to push.
Although, if you really care who the winner is, you can just assume the team with the higher time bank is the winner. That's what I like to do, unless it's just absolutely like the same, off by a few seconds.
So it looks like we have Zahiv staying on that Junkrat. I really, really like the work he was able to put in as the Junkrat earlier. And it looks like we've got that hook combo coming in. So, of course, Roadhog and Orisa. Orisa's able to actually dislocate the enemy team so you can get an easier hook on them. So let's see if we're able to see that coming in from the defense. Now, we were told to watch out for Tracer God, and it looks like Tracer God on the attack right now for Surge is on that Sombra pick, so it looks like we might be getting a little bit more EMP action going in here. Finn is actually the first one to go down, dying very quickly because Zcare has that has that Discord orb stuck onto the Roadhog. Now, Dancer, I know you play tanks just a little bit more than I do. When you're playing as Roadhog and you have Discord Orb on your head, knowing how big you are, what an easy target you are to hit, what do you do there? Do you just accept death?
I think you have to. I mean, you know your Ryan's a little bit closer, so you maybe have to give up on the hook. I would turn around, look down, Pop might take a breather, take that 50% damage reduction, but when you're that fat against a coordinated team, it's just really hard and really unlucky. All the enemy team has to do is call you, and we're seeing these are higher level scrims. I believe these teams are just around 4K, almost GM players, and they definitely play in a very coordinated style. So if you see that Roadhog pull up to get that risky hook, as a Zen, he has such a nice crossfire with this McCree. We can see it in the pause screen, that all he does is call it out. Everyone else can peek, and the Roadhog doesn't even bother to try and heal. He just cleans up the kill as soon as the hook is over.
And then let's also take a look. So here's the great thing about Zenyatta. We talked about this before. 30% damage increase to whatever target has that Discord orb. So that means anybody on your team, yourself included, damaging that target who's tagged with Discord, the target's going to be taking an additional 30% more damage, right? So it's obviously huge, and it's really important to focus fire when that happens. But let's take a look at another thing that is a huge advantage right now for the Executioners. GMR and Zahiv both have their ultimates essentially, right? A couple percentage points off, but the DPS on the Executioner side have their ultimates. Now, let's go ahead and take a look over at Surge. Tracer God, before crashing, did have about 40% ultimate on that Sombra. And then outside of that, they're running, 3 tanks who, yes, I'm a huge fan of tank ultimates, but they're not able to actually swing the game as instantaneously as maybe, McCree's, High Noon is able to do, or Zahiv getting a giant 2K with his tire. So it's going to be very interesting to see, with all this tankiness that they have, what is Surge able to actually do walking into this Discord, walking into all this high ground? Aside from a lucky hook on the Zen, I think it's going to be very difficult to do anything here without being able to have some sort of mobility to dislodge that Zen, dislodge GMR who's getting free pot shots.
Yeah, and I really like this crossfire, this defensive crossfire they're building. You can look at it from the offensive kind of view, where Reinhardt's shield is so linear. He can block directional damage in only one direction, whereas the Orisa shield's a bit more circular and might actually block a two-prong approach like this. So not only are they getting damage around the shield, no matter where the shield's positioned, also think about who the Sombra's going to hack here. If she hacks Zen, she's just going to get flashbanged and cleaned up. If she hacks McCree, even if the flashbang isn't there, she starts focusing McCree, Zen will heal him, they'll both clean her up. If she starts focusing Zen after hacking McCree, there's no peel, but the Mercy can just freely fly over here and top the Zen up if they do get in a little bit of trouble. So if it's a really anti-hack kind of comp they're running here. And even worst case scenario, they do get the EMP. They pop up on Big Earls, pop the EMP. Your Zen's not going to be EMP'd. So if he has his Zen, ult, the Transcendence, the team can just drop off and get topped up that way. It feels like it's a very good counter to the Sombra pick. They probably have believed in this map. It's always been a Sombra heavy map, even before this Sombra meta that we might be heading into. So I think this strategy might actually have been revolved around knowing Sombra's points of attack, and it's really preventing all of her flanks.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I really like what you mentioned earlier about the concept of having a crossfire onto cart. That's something we don't hear people talk about too much in Overwatch, but it's very prevalent in other FPSs. How do you create that kill zone, right? How do you create a situation in which the enemy team is almost guaranteed to die because they're getting shot from so many directions that they actually can't respond to any of that? But it looks like the game has begun again. Of course, it wouldn't be an NA scrim without at least a 15 to 20 minute wait somewhere in the middle, if not at the beginning, and also several more times. So Zen is actually loading up that orb volley, not really too worried about his accuracy, as you shouldn't be, just trying to close off lanes. That's what the orb volley is really good for. Yes, of course, you can get the those dank headshots with it, but really what you're looking to do is just close off area of attack for the attacking team. Looks like they're able to get one kill coming in from that Junkrat tire. Coalescence coming in is going to be very difficult to maintain that high ground control with Coalescence just pushing you immediately off. High Noon coming in is able to get one, gets the Moira, which could be a big deal if the rest of your team was still alive, but unfortunately the entire team, the entirety of Surge was able to walk in off that Coalescence, pump in a lot of damage, force the enemy team to actually rotate in a way that maybe they weren't expecting. Maybe they actually didn't expect that high ground approach. I feel like they should have, though, because they were so well set up, but certainly was not expecting it there and got completely rolled. So point cap coming in for Surge. Let's see if they can actually keep this payload moving. Alright, so Tracer God has actually moved off of that Sombra onto a Junkrat.
The question here, again, is high ground denial. We see such a good defense set up on the high ground. What is Surge going to do about it? We saw the Tracer Bomb. That had to have been big to get anything done. They might actually be in trouble now that they didn't get much done with that.
Couldn't get much value out of that one, and here's the problem when you're playing Reinhardt on the low ground. It's very difficult for you to be super disruptive to the enemy team. Now, here's the great thing for Surge. That doesn't really matter too much if your DPS is popping off, and it looks like they were, but now we've got a huge kill coming in, multiple kills actually coming in for the Executioners here. So kills being traded back and forth. I'm not really sure who's going to come away with the victory here. It looks like the Executioners are smartly backing off here, just trying to make sure that they don't take any fight that they don't want to take. Valkyrie being popped here, so it looks like this is going to be the fight that they actually want to take from the Executioners side. Surge is walking and attempting to get any kills that they can. So far, no kills coming up in the kill feed. Really, really smart Transcendence in there, saving the team. And this is the Zenyatta that we've been seeing all night coming in for Marble. I've got to tell you, just the confidence to walk in like that, no fear getting a 4K.
And I told you this before, Arg. I absolutely love watching Marble on this end. I think he knows how to play this hero better as a DPS hero than I can play any hero in the game. Just so clean. He knows when to walk in. He knows when he has the advantage. He saw his Moira's low, so he wants to sort of take the focus fire away from the enemy. Even if I think Orisa hit the Moira with 1 or 2 orbs, Moira would have been done there. She broke LOS. She couldn't have got the healing orb. So just really smart decision there to walk in as the support. Worst case scenario, you die, but the push is going to be dead if you sit back anyways. Someone has to get on that cart to finish it up.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I'm so impressed by the aggression we just saw from Marble. So Marble was able to actually get high ground control, completely uncontested, by the way, and was just raining down, orb volleys, was raining down the Discord, able to get a couple of kills, and then with zero fear at all, walks into the enemy team, getting 2 more kills, including an Orisa. Marble is quietly carrying the heck out of Surge right now. If there wasn't so much other high level play coming in from Surge, I would actually say Marble is the MVP of this match, but that's very difficult to say when you have a player like Goose on your team, creating all that space, when you have a player like Finn who's able to clean up those kills. I don't know that I could actually pick an MVP, but certainly Marble is the MVP of my heart.
Oh, he's the MVP of all of our hearts, Arg.
Now, taking a look over, so you're on the defensive side, Dancer. Let's say you're part of the executioners. We actually do get a chance to see a little bit of a window into what they're thinking with the Hanzo pick. Not sure if that's going to stick or if that's just attempting to get some eyes on when the enemy team is coming. But you had just lost that fight pretty decisively to a Zenyatta. What do you do to regain your control? Now, we mentioned before with Numbani that once you lose your momentum going into that last point, you're very, very hard pressed to actually retake that momentum. And then, of course, we saw Surge absolutely shut me up by doing exactly that. So is this the moment where Surge just maintains their velocity going through the hangar phase here? Or is this something that, legitimately the Executioners have a chance to stop and to do a complete hold on this final point?
There's always a chance to do a complete hold, and the great thing about this game is no matter what ultimates are up, there's always a counter using only abilities. So you get the right hook on the right target, you can completely negate more than one ult. Things like that can completely change the game. That being said, it can look like a lot of trouble for Executioners here. Goose has that shatter up. He likes to play aggro. If he can get in behind the shield, and my guess is that Rin's not going to change off the Orisa here. He has the ult. He hasn't changed it off it all game. I'd be very surprised if he matched Rein to Rein here. But if Goose can get a shatter in behind that stationary Orisa shield, then Adrian's going to have the opportunity to clean up those kills, build his ult, and then we see Finn already has his ult. So it's almost just an ult economy game here. If Adrian and Finn both know, hey, let's build a combo for fight number 2, it might already be set in stone. Goose gets that big shatter, you clean it up with Marble's Discords and with Adrian's damage, then that way you have your second ult sequence of ults to finish up the point 2, which we all know is the harder point. It's when the attackers have a better respawn. You want your better ult combination for that point anyways, which would be the Grav, the Big Bang, the Grav Tracer Bomb.
Yeah, and like we've seen so many times throughout these matches back and forth, Finn having Tracer Bomb, this is not an ult you want to hold. The moment that Tracer Bomb is up and available, Finn's going to be looking for it because you pretty much guarantee that Tracer's going to be able to build an entirely new bomb before Adrian's actually able to even complete that Graviton Surge build. Or even if Adrian's able to get it a little bit faster, Finn's going to get it within about 45 seconds. So it's not much of a wait here. Alright, so it looks like the first kill is coming in. We actually have kills going back and forth, and just like I mentioned, Finn not very afraid to use that Tracer Bomb, is able to get a kill on the Zenyatta, which is actually huge here. It's going to open the entire door for Surge to be able to walk in, feel very confident on this point. And during all of this, the payload is still moving, and just like that, before you even noticed it, the payload is almost actually at completion. Just a few more meters to go for Surge to be able to capitalize on this point with some time left in the bag. That Moira being uncontested in the back is actually such a huge problem for the Executioners. Moira is able to pump out so much healing. Certainly when your entire team is all stuck on the point, they are able to cap there. And I think a lot of it comes down to, yes, the fragging ability of, the roster coming in from Surge, but also those Moira heals. it's actually exceptional how much healing she can do. You know, more healing on a single target than an Ana could, and then you're also getting a chance to hit multiple targets with that Moira stream. So it's a very, very strong pick when you're in that closed-in environment. Certainly when you're all stacked on top of the point.
Yeah, it feels like the new Moira, or I mean, not the new Moira, the new support Moira. Um, she's kind of the most important person to pick when you're in that stagger fight. You know, the fights that we talk about where the attackers have a massive advantage, they can keep piling bodies on point. But if you don't eventually get a pick, you're not going to get anywhere. 6v1, you're going to lose quite fast. And like you said, Moira does so much healing. And the thing is, she does it to everyone. So it's not like she's going to forget about one of her tanks and you'll get that pick, or she'll forget about one of the DPS. At the end there, you put all 6 bodies on cart, you keep throwing Moira's orb, and you keep spraying with Moira. And that's like almost infinite healing there, it feels like. There's no one DPS hero, maybe a Doomfist punch or a perfect one clip with Tracer. That's really the only thing that's going to get through Moira's healing. She has to be the first pick, and she has that shift to stay alive.
Yeah, she has so much survivability there. But now I want to take a look. I hope this is not just a ha-ha moment for the Executioners. We do see the Orisa, we do see the Bastion, so this might be an El Presidente pirate ship type comp. We also see the Torbjorn. I'm sure that's going to be switched off. A little bit questionable if that remains. And then obviously with the attack Symmetra, I would certainly never report you for that, but I certainly wouldn't recommend it. But it looks like we are going to be walking out. So we've got a very ha-ha comp coming in from the Executioners. Let's see if they're able to actually maintain success here. Not a lot of mobility, so if things start to get out of hand, it's going to be very difficult for them to get out of dodge.
And those turrets are going to be very hard to get to with the double shields.
Yeah, it's definitely one way to do it. It can work, provided that the enemy team doesn't. If they're not able to actually react to it, that's good. But if they don't react to it and then they continue to not adjust to it, this actually, you know, comes off to many people as a completely overpowered comp. Now, the flip side to that is, if the enemy team knows what they're doing, they just kill you immediately and don't really get close enough for your turret, for your Bastion, or for the Sim turrets to really do much of anything. Not getting away, not today. Looks like a very, very confident hold there. So the surprise factor was there. I think the Executioners did that to about the best of their ability. I don't know that there was a whole lot more they could have done. Maybe having a little bit more of that first pick, you know, maybe it was a little bit of an aim thing, or they just couldn't see. I really think that Surge just played it smart. They didn't peek if they didn't have to. They chose what fights that they wanted to take, and they were able to get that kill. So still on the Bastion here, I don't know if I agree with this. I think it's very, very strong if you're catching the enemy on their heels, but now the enemy knows what to expect. Certainly don't want to have that into the EMP or into the hack coming in from the Sombra, so it looks like it's going to be another team wipe going in favor of Surge. They're really not having any of this. We could call it a cheese comp. It's a little silly. Again, I appreciate trying to change it up. You want to catch the enemy team off their heels, but if you find out it's not working, and clearly it's not working, this is the moment in time where you need to just stop and spawn and say, hey, listen, guys, what are we doing?
And you know what? I think that first push wasn't so bad. If you would have looked at how far the card actually got, it's about similar to what it is now. So to get that for free for one push, you know, it was kind of a joke. And if they do set up properly and get a good Orisa pull, it can end up being a 3.1 and good progress on the 3.2. I would have called the reset for dive much earlier. You're not going to get all of those people reset up in good positions on cart. And this is the attack they're looking for with these characters here.
Absolutely. So a few key switches coming, actually many key switches coming in from the Executioners. So very smartly they realize, hey, this isn't working out so well. You know, how do we respond to what they're doing? And another big part of that is, if you know the enemy team is still expecting your Symmetra and your Bastion you can start thinking, well, we know what they're going to expect. What can we do very quickly to catch them off guard again? GMR going onto that Widow is actually, I think, in part what they were looking to do there. They certainly were not expecting the Widow. She is able to, unfortunately, get herself hacked. So this is actually very interesting coming in from Surge. Not only do they have really, really strong mechanical skills, good decision making, but what I'm seeing a lot is they're able to adjust on the fly. They don't need to actually lose a team fight to readjust to what the enemy is doing. GMR coming in with that Widowmaker pick is actually huge, but doesn't really help a lot if you're getting hacked and killed before you're able to take the first shot in that team fight. All right, so Marvel does have Transcendence here. Hopefully not using it until the Genji uses Blade. That's pretty much your only job. Is forced to use it because the enemy team knew what they were doing. Let's poke the Zenyatta, get him to use his ultimate. We know it's overtime, and the moment we have the Zenyatta do that, we have our Genji walk in with Blade, who attempts to kill an Orisa with the Blade. Maybe not the best target prioritization there. Certainly not on Orisa, and definitely not on Orisa who just fortify.
I think the panic came in once the reset happened. He got that free kill on the McCree, pulled out the Blade, used his dash, and unfortunately there was nothing else behind that Orisa shield. And once you start focusing a target with the Genji Blade, you're basically stuck shooting it until it's dead, unless someone willingly walks into your zone of influence.
And we've all been there in that situation where, you know, you picked a target, you realize maybe a second in that this is not really the best place for you, but especially as Genji, you don't really have a lot of options. You want that dash reset, so you need to confirm that kill. Now, here's what I really want to see. So this is what the executioners need. They need a minute to just chat in comms. Listen, guys, who's going to carry us, right? So we're losing some of these team fights. We need somebody to pop off. I think GMR was attempting to walk into that direction, picking the Widowmaker. Not really sure if it was the best pick on that particular part of the map. Certainly when the enemy team has so much high ground on Big Earl's, Route 66, you know, the gas station. You have a giant sign in front of you that you can hide behind. So I think maybe we're starting to see that coming in from the executioners. You know, if we're not going to win these team fights, how do we pop off? How do we enable one of our DPS to pop off and capitalize on the, you know, 2-3K that they get to open up the point? But this is the moment in time that the executioners need. They need that moment to breathe and figure out how they're going to attack the next map.
For sure. And after 3 minutes, once you lose the ult economy on your second last or third last fight there, you need to say, what character can I pick that doesn't need ult to be effective? And Widow, I think, is very often the choice. We see that with Envious back in the day when Taimu, you know, every time his team started losing, he'd pick the Widow and then he would end up carrying. And I think that's kind of the mindset that GMR got into. You know, we used the Bastion ult, we used the Genji ult, we used all our ults once. We're going to have a second shot here, but what can I do to give us a shot in this fight? You know, the one where they were building alts. Because it's a lot of pressure when you know Marble's holding on to that Zenyatta ult for so long. They didn't know that he was going to pop it early going into that last fight there.
Yeah, and certainly when it comes to, you know, when you're going up another team, so from what we've seen from Surge thus far, what we've seen is a couple of things. We see a lot, they're winning a lot of 1v1s, right? But more importantly than that, they're making very good decisions. So they don't take fights that they don't feel like they need to take. They know when to pull back, but then they also know when to go, you know, full out aggression to capitalize on the enemy team on their heels. That's what we've been seeing from Surge. So the executioners should know this. They should know, listen, this is how we're losing these fights. These guys are making great decisions. And maybe that was part of that cheese comp that we saw coming in on Attack 66 there. I think that at this point, executioners are just saying, you know, how do we get these guys off their game? We know we can beat them. You know, we've actually, you know, beat them on Temple of Anubis, right? We had a much better time on Temple of Anubis. So we know we can do it. But the question is, how do we get them to maybe panic a little bit, or if they're not going to panic, how do you get them kind of leaning back on their heels so you can lean into them, apply that weight, and really get them to crumple? That's what the executioners are looking for. And I actually think Nepal is a very interesting map to do it on. This is another King of the Hill type map. So we're going to be seeing very centralized, very localized team fights, all coming back to the same place, relatively the same place. It's not like a an escort map where there's multiple different looks that you need to adjust to. So this might actually be the catalyst that the executioners need. And it seems like the moment I say that, we're switching to King's Row. Now, unfortunately, well, all right, let me tell you this. I'm going to tell you this, my answer. With point A, that is the case. Everything we've seen the executioners do has been really decisive fights when capping a point. So I think the executioners are going to be favored on point A, which is an assault escort style map. Where I would like to see them carry that favorability is into the streets phase. So let's see if Surge can remain dominant, remain calm, cool, and collected, or if the executioners can actually get them to second guess the decisions they make.
And the things you're talking about there, Arg, how they did so much better on the 2CP. The thing about 2CP is it forces you to have reset attacks. 2CP is a very reset-oriented game type. Very often, even in solo queue or even in quick play games, teams will know you cannot win point 2 without an actual team reset. Which on payload, it feels like, hey, we got 3 on cart, there's only 4 of them in front of us. Maybe we can push this a little bit further, win a little bit more for our team, and then take the fight. And I think that maybe that's been the problem. We saw a few times where they soft resetted, where they had 4 against 5, and they thought, maybe if we pop ults early, that'll make the difference and we can win this. I want to see the harder resets from executioners, because like you said, they did win Temple of Anubis quite convincingly. And that sort of is the biggest difference between 2CP and every other game type for me. You got to know when to call it quits, know when to feed, know when to call the full absolute 6-man reset. And I think if they keep doing that and they keep calling those 6-man resets and taking the full team fights, maybe we'll see them a little bit stronger. But right now, it looks like in the trickle fights, Goose is sort of, not Goose, sorry. Surge is winning those soft reset fights where it's the 4v5 or the 4v4s.
Now, at this point, it's really, really interesting that you say that, Dancer, because I actually agree. And I want to also take a look at, obviously we're paused again, so sorry for the NA scrims, but let's take a look at what we have coming in for defense by Surge. So we've got Goose on that very familiar Reinhardt, Adrian on Zarya, which of course Reinhardt Zarya is absolutely insane on King's Row. But we've got Finn on Mei. Now, I'm not going to say it's wrong. I actually think Mei can do a lot of work here, but the problem is Mei dies if you shoot her. So if the executioners can figure out how to make Mei waste her resources, she's a very easy target to hit once she uses up that ice block. So curious to see what the attempt is, or what the thought is here with Finn on that Mei. Are they just looking for traps? It looks like they might be trying to stop them from jumping across the gap, and they do get a huge stop there. Really heads up play by Finn, forcing the fight immediately onto point, not allowing the enemy team to actually take the high ground. Unfortunately though for Finn, he goes down first, getting hacked and then getting killed by the Sombra. Now we've got a huge team fight taking place on point. It looks like everything is going in the benefit of the executioner, so that's exactly what they need to hear, and that's what we've been seeing from them for every single map we've seen. Once it gets to a specific point on the map, they're able to do so much work and capitalize on those initial picks. Now, here's the question: does this momentum actually translate into what they're able to do streets phase?
And massive staggers still coming out here too, as Surge got that early spawn. The Reinhardt charged in. They even popped Moira ult, but Moira ult's not a big loss. They're building it in less than half of a team fight. It's to pop it to get some stagger kills. I think that's a very good trade. You built a little bit more of the Mei ult. You have the Reinhardt ult. I mean, executioners are in a really good spot to get an easy push on point 2 here.
when you also know your Transcendence is going to be up very soon, so even if something does go catastrophically wrong, you do have that that Transcendence able to, you know, save you if you need it. Giant hammer coming in from Rin, getting at least 4 down with that hammer. That's going to be a huge team fight. That is play of the game. You are not prepared. And that's why people pick Reinhardt on King's Row. What you just saw is the exact reason that Reinhardt is picked so heavily on this map. And of course, Zarya picked it's because you have these close quarter fights. And this is really what, you know, the Executioners need. They need these close-in fights, but Tracer God is coming in with a 2K, getting both of the supports with the blade. That is an amazing trade. Even if you die going to do that, Dancer, you want to get those 2 kills on the enemy team's supports, really try to stop the push, but unfortunately nobody is there to actually capitalize on those 2 kills, and it looks like Executioners are going to take the day again, or at least take the point here. I got those death throws coming in from Finn, is able to get a kill. Not really sure that I would have invested the Blizzard there. Blizzard's going to be a little bit tougher to build. It's not difficult to build, it's just, you know, this is when things start to get kind of, you know, very horizontal, right? The map, there's a lot of room, so it's very difficult for May to get a lot of value with that ice wall. And of course, we're seeing, you know, Finn coming actually back in on the McCree, getting the giant beat coming in every single time that there's a huge beat. I look up, I see that it's Marble, I see that it's Rex sometimes. Really, really happy with the support ultimates I see coming in from Surge. Another Graviton Surge coming in. Not able to get a lot of value there, so we actually have no kills coming through right now. Who's going to be the first one to die? Tracer Guy getting a 2K, double dash reset on the Zenyatta and then on the Sombra, and it looks like this is going to be the moment where Surge can finally get that breathing room that they so desperately needed. Up until this point, it has been the Executioner's show, and now we get a chance to see what do the Executioners do when they've finally been stopped. Now, this would be a perfect moment. We mentioned this a couple maps ago. This is a perfect moment for a dry run. The Executioners should be pushing in very aggressively, knowing that they have nothing to use, and getting hammered there. Although that was a big hammer, I actually think that was planned. Really, the Executioners knew for a fact, no matter what, they were losing that fight. So if you lose that fight, but you take the enemy team's Reinhardt ultimate with you, you've actually won that fight because you're respawning within about 15 seconds. Your respawn's right there, and now you initiate again, but this time you don't have to deal with that Rein ultimate. I like where Tracer God's mind is at, getting set up, looking for a giant blade. He does pull it out, looking for the Zenyatta first. Is able to get a kill on the Zenyatta, gets his dash reset, but unfortunately gets hacked, although he is able to get 3 before he goes down. Zahid is trying to get an ultimate in of his own. Dragon Blade is actually going down, 2 kills coming in for the Executioners, but it's not going to be enough. Another full hold here. Very, very difficult for the Executioners to actually get a foothold. They were willing to invest ultimates in that fight, so that was not a dry run. They were trying to win that point there, but unfortunately was not rewarded, even though they were able to get 2 kills about midway through the fight.
I don't know if I like that call on Zahid popping the blade either. I'm not sure if he knew he was going to swap, but even though Tracer God got hacked during his blade, he still did manage to do quite a bit of damage on tanks, plus get 2 picks.
Huge blocked Earth Shatter there, so it looks like Goose again is showing why he is one of the most dominant Reinhardts at least I've ever seen or played with. What he's showing here is it's not just this... It's not just swinging your hammer. Yes, obviously that's a big part of it. Hitting W and swinging your hammer is a big part of it. But when it comes to the Rein v Rein moments, being able to outplay the enemy Rein for kind of baiting them into using that Earth Shatter and then being able to block it with the shield that you have, not only are you saving your enemy team, but you're really just establishing dominance over the enemy Rein, making sure that he knows he shouldn't even be in the game right now.
The mind games on the main tanks is so strong.
Huge EMP coming in from GMR. I'm very, very happy to see that EMP there because it looked like Goose really wanted that Earth Shatter. He wanted it very bad. He knew the enemy team's Reinhardt was going, or his shield was going down. So Goose was trying to get into a position, but unfortunately made himself very available to getting EMP'd, is taken down. A couple of kills coming in actually from Surge now, so they're able to get some picks while they're waiting for the rest of the team to regroup. Again, Marble is just putting in so much work, getting those right clicks, downrange, hitting the enemy, you know, killing the enemy. I feel like a lot of times I'm seeing Marble in this kill feed just as much as I'm seeing some of the DPS.
Marble and Finn definitely played big there. They single-handedly each picked one character and forced the hard reset. I mean, like we said,
another giant right click. The orb volley coming in from Marble. Knew, maybe couldn't see everybody, but knew somebody was going to be in that location. That's a great prediction shot, taking out the Sombra.
It might just be the fat boy in me, but something good happens when I hear that ding, ding, ding. It just reminds me, you know, dinner is done.
Yeah, the triple headshot ding has got to be one of the best feels. Tracer God not only is getting a couple of kills there, but gets hacked and is still able to make it out alive. So this is one of those moments, yeah, you've got 30 seconds left. It feels like you should rush, but you actually have a little bit of time to slow down and figure out how you're going to win this fight. Is Rin going to walk in and just use that hammer, or are you going to wait for EMP? Looks like Finn is actually getting a very, very favorable position here, going for the high noon, but he waits just a little bit too long, is not able to get any value. Really smart play by Rex here, not actually getting baited off the point by the enemy going one way or the other, trying to stay on point, knowing that those heals are so incredibly useful and valuable to the team that you don't just want to waste it by chasing down one of the enemies who's, you know, in your backlines alone. You expect the rest of your team to be able to collapse on them to save you, not the other way around. So now it looks like we got a lot of kills coming in from the Executioner's side. Finn is able to get a little bit of a reprieve for his team, getting the kill onto Zaheeb, but again, we're seeing a huge push coming in. Every single time that they're getting this big of a push, and almost C9, but every time that they're able to get this big of a push, it's really like the Executioners can't be stopped. They just keep getting kill after kill after kill. Marvel's having none of this, getting another headshot, taking out the Sombra. Oh, poor Finn. He wants this high noon more than anything else in the world. Whiffs twice on the high noon and gets high noon himself from Zaheeb. And they're getting so close to point. Can anybody just boop them off? I think that's the only way you actually beat the Executioners here. They're so dominant right now. They're getting kill after kill, so you really have to decide, how are we going to go ahead and win this fight? Now, Finn starting off with a headshot and killing the Reinhardt is big, but then getting booped himself is not going to help his team. It's not going to help anybody there. Pretty unlucky. And now GMR getting in another kill. So very big staggers coming in from both sides. It looks like Agent's trying to put the entire team on his back, carry them to victory. At this point, I actually don't know what to expect. Every single time I think Surge is out, they keep coming back. Adrian is carrying the team. Goose walks in. Is this going to be a full hold? It's a hold on point 3.
So massive. And you see what a good defender spawns can do when you trade life for a life. So it looked like that entire time Executioners were winning the fight, but every single time the 6 of them came out, the 6 members of Surge came out, they would not die without at least 1 or 2 of them getting a pick. And slowly that trade, life for life, you're talking about a 15-second walk back for Surge and almost a 25-second walk back for Executioners. So that math slowly adds up, even if you're trading 6 for 2, 6 for 3. And they slowly take the lead there. I gotta say, just so impressed by the tank play and the healer play. Of course the DPS are popping off. I don't want to disrespect them, but you saw what the healers did when it was just Marble and it was just Rex. They bought an easy 30 seconds on point stalling. The rest of the 4 members of their team came back. The healers had died, but at that point you have tanks, you have DPS. They can somewhat try and build pressure, build space for each other, and then they don't die without getting 2 kills, and then the healers come back, build healer ults, and they're able to survive, and they just keep doing this sort of reset turnaround where they're all just buying time for the next set of respawns. And that's 2CP low at its best. I know this isn't 2CP, but it feels like it after
Certainly
that
feels
one.
like that in moments like that, and that's one of the great things. So we know that everything really feeds into the rest of the team, right? So when you have incredible tank play, what does that mean? It means that it creates all the space so that your DPS can do their job, right? I think we've all been on teams with bad tank play, and then it makes you as a DPS look bad, and you're like, no, wait, I had no space to work with. But when you have somebody like Adrian, when you have somebody like Goose creating all this space, getting the entire enemy team to look at them, you're free to do whatever you like as a DPS. And that's why it's such a feels good when you have really, really strong tanks, because it lets you shine as a DPS. Not able to get away as GMR. It does try to bait the Widow by throwing the translocator, trying to skate out a little bit secretively, but it's not going to happen here. Reinhardt, of course, coming in, getting a pick. Rin not able to get any sort of connection there, so it looks like this is going to be a pretty fast point capture coming in from Surge. That's actually what we saw in the last fight too. It was very, very decisive. Not really sure what that soldier was doing. Maybe he was stuck. But very, very decisive point caps on A. And then, of course, the question becomes, similar to what the Executioners did, is Surge able to maintain control throughout the entire Streets phase into the final section? That's going to be the question here. Are they able to get stopped, or is Surge going to press this advantage?
The one thing I really like that Executioners did that we didn't see Surge do here is the Ryan push up to build space to kill those late defensive respawns. So it's just such a big advantage to get those extra 2 kills. You're buying 20 seconds a cart. You're building ults for your healer, your tank, and anyone else who's building that space. And Goose sort of just sat back there. He had full shield. He was capable to do it, but the call wasn't there.
Definitely going to be a Graviton Surge coming in here from Adrian. As soon as he builds it, I feel like he really wants to do it here, especially with the Reinhardt going down, not able to get a lot of value out of his Earth Shatter. Does come in here, and they are able to first force out the Lucio ult, so even though you're losing that fight, you did force out the enemy team's Lucio sound barrier, so I don't want to call it a win, but it's certainly a nice consolation prize.
You did bait out the Lucio ult, which is big. That is their only defensive ult. I don't know if I consider Moira ult a defensive ult. It's really more of sustain. But I mean, you did lose your Moira ult as well. Your Reinhardt didn't build any ult, so best case scenario, your Reinhardt's there, your Zarya ult. He's gonna swing 2 or 3 times into that grab, and even if you lose, he'll get his ult off of it. It feels like the ult economy was a little bit swayed with that Graviton. Like you said, it's just a consolation prize. It's better than absolutely nothing.
So it looks like they were able to get a few ultimates coming in. Rin coming in with the giant hammer, getting a lot of value out of that one, and is going to be able to get the team wipe essentially all on his own. His team is able to be there to back him up. So let's take a look. Let's just slow down this game a little bit and try to figure out, you know, now that Surge has been stopped, we actually saw the Executioners on their attack not get stopped at all, but Surge has been stopped, so what are they planning to do here? And unfortunately for Tracer, the completely calculated, perfectly placed trap from the Junkrat stops her from getting out. Adrian is able to get the pick. It's actually a huge pick because Tracer is not in the fight and also not building EMP this entire time. This is actually going to be a huge moment for the Tracer to get that EMP to be able to fight maybe for next fight. Tracer got going down next, but it looks like all the kills are going towards Surge's end, so this is going to be a pretty convincing team fight going towards Surge. Executioners are being pushed back into their spawn, and unfortunately for them, Adrian has another one of these Graviton Surges, which can do so much work, provided that they're able to maybe get a flashbang on the enemy Reinhardt shield. That's what Finn is looking to do here. Once Adrian gets that Graviton Surge, if the enemy Reinhardt is in there, you either want Finn to flashbang, or preferably you want Goose to actually shift in there and remove the Reinhardt so the rest of your team can kill.
So I don't know if you caught what happened back there when we saw the calculated trap, but actually what Tracer got it done is he had stayed at 20 health after the fight, so that Sombra would see him through the wall, know where he was, go to clean up the kill, but he was sitting right beside a health pack. As soon as Sombra got near him, he touched health pack, got to full health, and won the duel.
Yeah, that's what we've been seeing all day long from Sergio. Really heads up plays, very smart, kind of going next level on this, and a lot of ultimates are actually coming in. So looks like we had the hammer down coming in from Reinhardt along with Zahib's tactical visor. Yes, they win the fight. He really wanted that kill on the way out. Yes, they win the fight, but now if we take a look at the ultimates that are being had, we've got, I'm going to call that 5 because Zen will be able to pick up his Transcendence. So Surge has 5 ultimates coming into this fight. Zen will certainly have that Transcendence within the next 10 to 15 seconds here. Question is, how does Surge actually use this ultimate here? They have the advantage, but what are they going to do with it? First thing that comes in is Graviton Surge with the Coalescence, getting a lot of kills. Tracer guy coming in, completely taking away the Lucio sound barrier with his tire. Although we only got 1 kill, he was actually able to do a significant amount of damage, completely removing the enemy shields and allowing the rest of his team to walk in and get the kill. This might be the end of the map here, unless somebody's able to actually come in. Marvel throwing the trance out there, not really sure if you were going to get pinned there. I think that's a very smart trance, even though you weren't in necessarily immediate danger. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because Surge is able to pick up the victory on King's Row.
That was just such an amazing 900 IQ scrim at the end there. You just saw every single aspect of play, the Reinhardt mind games, the massive EMPs. I mean, I think almost every single EMP was paired with the Shatter, which we all know with the new EMP, Shatter means team wipe. It's guaranteed, and it's basically just building ults for anyone else who needs them still. I gotta say, King's Row is my favorite map of all time, and it did not disappoint this time around.
Yeah, certainly did not disappoint, and nothing to be taken away from the Executioners there. That was certainly the best we've seen them play as far as, you know, like a comeback potential, right? The only reason they weren't able to get the full cap on King's Row was because, like you mentioned before, even if both teams have one person die, the attacking team, the defending team, not only does the defending team have a better respawn, the respawn is closer, but you have to also remember in overtime, every single time that somebody on your team dies, it takes actually longer and longer as overtime ticks away. It takes longer for people to respawn. So now you're in a situation where if you're attacking on King's Row and somebody dies, you might not see them again in the fight for upwards of 30 seconds or more. And that's what really allowed Surge to go ahead and take the victory there. Again, I thank you so much to the Executioners. Really, really strong play, specifically on King's Row. And of course, thank you very much to Surge. Very strong play, very smart play coming in, very heads-up play coming in from Surge. Any last thoughts on the scrim that we just witnessed, Dancer?
I'm so impressed by both teams, Ark. We haven't been casting too long, but I can say I thoroughly enjoyed both of these teams. Surge came and they brought it. You know, they started off with dive, but they showed that they do it all. Goose was building space like a madman. And then Executioners, although they did lose the first 2 maps, they were down, but definitely not out. They came back. They brought the energy way up. Geomar was fragging out like crazy. I just absolutely love the energy they started to bring. And it almost felt like at the beginning, you know, this was a nice friendly scrim. But at the end, I felt the energy of a rivalry. You know what I mean? Like something about getting.
Wait to see a rematch.
We have to see a rematch.
Incredible.
This was such a good match, and that 2 CP lull at the end. You know, where like Executioners, I think we could all agree 100% deserve to win that fight.
We've all been there, Executioners. Do not feel bad. We have all had that feels bad moment. Yeah, I'm with you, Dancer. I can't wait to see a rematch between Surge and the Executioners. But of course, thank you so much for everybody who tuned in. Thank you very much for the Executioners and Surge for allowing us to cast this and supporting us from Argander and of course my wonderful friend Dancer. We thank you for watching and we will see you next time.